Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It's Tuesday, November 16th, 2021. I'm Andrew Hansen alongside Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, also affectionately known as the winner on all three sites last night, putting together some solid winners for our members. Coach, you ready to follow it up again here on this three-game slate?
Man, I certainly am. I'm lucky I'm bald as an eagle because after all that late news, like in the last 10 minutes, It was like craziness. I've never seen that much news late, but we took advantage of it. We put the people in we needed to and got it done. So thank you to the members out there for letting me post a little bit later than normal, but it was winners. I got the light colors on after wearing the black yesterday. So that is working. So we're going to stay with that deal. And hopefully we keep things rocking and rolling on a nice little three-gamer. I know right in your alley, you love these little jobbers. You find all the value.
Absolutely.
So
oh, yeah.
I'm excited to do it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, we've got the doubleheader on TNT, and we've got some big teams here, Coach, some great teams. Most of them are well over 500. We have the best three offenses in terms of efficiency. We have three of the best four defenses. So it's going to be some exciting basketball, a lot of stars in action, and let's see if we can get it done here. So the opener, Golden State and Brooklyn at 7:30 on TNT. Highest total on the board here at 222. Brooklyn favored by 3. And it's a front end of a back-to-back for Brooklyn. They're the only team involved in a back-to-back on this slate. The news here, we've got Gary Payton probable and then Joe Harris out. But this is really the key matchup here, Coach. 11-2 against 10-4. We've got the number 1 and the number 4 defense. We also have the number 2 and the number 9 offense. Right. And we have good pace. They're 4th and 11th. So these teams are going to get up and down. They're going to get after it defensively. And we need to find an edge somewhere. So what are you thinking here on the Golden State side?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think this is a fun game. And, I know it's super early, but these are certainly two teams that could meet in the NBA Finals. There's no question about it. I mean, Golden State has been playing at this epic pace. They're not just winning, they're beating the life out of people. So, their margin of victory for, this many games in is super impressive, considering, I don't know what you think, Andrew, but I mean, they're not that great of a team to me. I know that sounds stupid because they have the best record, but it's not like they're loaded. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, Steph just leads the way. Draymond does a little bit of everything. And then there's got a lot of guys that cycle in and know the system. And, Kerr just has him headed in the right direction.
Yeah, he's a great coach. And you talk about buying into roles. I mean, it's just, I love basketball because it's not, I don't think it's like any other sport. Here's a team, Golden State. You've got Curry, who's a stupendous superstar. Green, who plays center at 6'4.5", which is hilarious. And then, look, I mean, Poole, Wiggins, Looney, Iguodala, Lee, Porter Jr., Payton, Bielitsa, Toscano, Anderson. That does not sound like a championship team. And they just keep winning. So great coaching matters. Great chemistry matters. You try to stack up like the Lakers, who can't stay within 20 of anybody lately. And, they've got all these first ballot Hall of Famers up and down the lineup. But that's why I love the game. And I think this is a fun one tonight. I mean, both teams have something to prove. It's in a big setting. It's on national TV. So we're going to get some real fun here. I think, Curry at 10-9, how can you not consider him? His usage is through the roof. And I know he'll get some Bruce Brown defense and some different, things to try to slow him down. But, man, they have him in a groove and they're playing so well that you absolutely, in my opinion, have to consider him. And then as far as, everybody else is pretty much value. I mean, how could the best record in the league, right now the best team in the league, and they only have one pay-up guy? It's hilarious. So, I mean, I'll just read them off real quickly because I'm excited to get your feedback. But Poole at 5'9" is reasonable. Wiggins and Draymond at 6'5" and 6'4". I mean, they get huge minutes, and this should be a tight game. You got a big total. Looney, not so much at that 3-5 number. But then all those guys off the bench that I mentioned before, they're all sub 4K, every one of them. So on a 3-game slate, this is the kind of day that you could grab an Iguodala or somebody, and they can get you there even in 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You gotta consider Curry. Bruce Brown has had some success against him. Last season, he started and Curry only shot 2 for 9, I believe, on threes that night. But we know that he can hit him on anybody at any given time. He is expensive, but we've got 3 other pay up guys to consider. So I would actually rather go with Wiggins and Draymond here. I like those mid-tier prices. I do think they'll be heavily involved. And Draymond, actually, Coach, here's a little nugget for you. Last night, while you were guiding our NBA teams to victory, I was obviously tracking the NFL, and Draymond appeared on the NFL broadcast with the Manning brothers on ESPN2. Yeah, he was one of the interviewees, and he spent about a quarter with them, and he talked about how he'd be guarding KD tonight, and he said he wasn't really looking forward to it, obviously, because it's a very tough matchup.
Yeah.
But, they talked about the game a fair amount because there's this chatter going around that there's a Manning curse when players primarily in the NFL appear on the broadcast. Their teams keep losing in their next game. So the Manning brothers were begging Draymond to break the curse, get the W tonight against Brooklyn. And I think after that appearance, Draymond knows the spotlight's going to be on him a little bit more. I think he brings it here tonight, trying to guard his old buddy KD. And I think we get, active, engaged Draymond. We don't get the guy who disappears and only plays 22 minutes and has a dud. So
I don't know, that Manning curse. Now you got me thinking.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if it translates to basketball or if Draymond can overcome it.
Yes.
So, and then I also agree with you on the bench there. A lot of guys who can get it done at those low prices, but to me, they're more GPP because, they really are sharing, 12 to 15 minutes. We've got Kuminga in there as well, Porter. So it's just a bunch of guys who could get out there and, who gets the steals, who hits the threes. I think it's just too hard to predict for cash. Right. So I think they're more of a GPP option.
Yes. No, good evaluation. And then on the Brooklyn side, do you have anything there, or do you want me to just jump right into that one?
Yeah, I'll kick that one off.
Okay.
With Joe Harris being out, the question is who's gonna start. Patty Mills started that second half of the last game after his injury,
right,
and lit it up. So he's a value play that I probably like a little bit more than those Golden State guys.
Yeah.
He has 4,000 on FanDuel, but that's fair. But Harden or KD. So I'm leaning Harden a little bit here today.
Okay.
I do think Draymond can give KD some trouble. Harden, I think, has a little better matchup against Curry and Poole. So I'm looking a little bit more at these guards for Brooklyn, Harden and Mills. Not really looking at Blake Griffin. Off the bench, LaMarcus Aldridge is the one guy I'm considering.
Fire.
Coach, let me ask you this here as I throw it back to you. Who would you rather have shooting a 3 this year? Blake Griffin, who's 9 for 50, or LaMarcus Aldridge, who's 9 for 18?
I'll tell you what, man. LaMarcus did not have that 3-point shot in his bag for years. He was
right. It was like that 19, 20-footer, and that was it.
That was it. And yeah, now that he's developed that, he had that time out away from basketball with that heart ailment. But man, is he playing vintage LaMarcus, and now he's added a 50% shooter from 3. Albeit a small sample size, but
right.
Yeah, I don't think the discussion, to me, honestly, is even there anymore. It was like, do you want Griffin or Aldridge? They're going to split some minutes. I mean, Aldridge just run away with that. I think he's a great guy. I love this game, this side of the table here for the value. I think Patty Mills at 3.8 on DraftKings is a steal. I do think he's going to start. Curry certainly and Poole are not great defenders. and you're probably going to get Wiggins on Harden and then Draymond on Durant. So I think Patty's in a great spot here. I mean, he produces his DFS points per minute for a guard are fantastic. So I like him a lot. I know you're going to like this guy, and I can't believe you didn't mention him already, but this is a guy that I'm thinking about playing, and definitely in a GPP, but he might even make a cash lineup because I think he's going to be the first guy off the bench, and that's DeAndre Bembry. He's only 3.2. He's another good points per minute guy. And I know Golden State has a good defense, but Bembry, they're going to need him in there in this game. And I think if you can grab that super value with Mills and or Bembry, and then follow it up with one of the studs from Brooklyn, I think you're off to a great start. Now, I differ slightly with you in I have right now Durant a sliver rated over Harden for a couple of reasons. One, I know Draymond's a terrific defender and everything, but Durant is 7 foot, legit 7 foot, and Green, truthfully, is 6'4.5". So, yes, he's a great defender. He can deny him the ball, but Durant can shoot right over top of him. And there's no doubt that they want to have a statement game here. Brooklyn does. Again, only early game on the entire slate. Everybody in the nation's watching. You're going to see all the New York celebrities there at this game. And I think Durant steps up and just has a monster. Harden's a great play as well, but you can't afford both sides. So I may be a Brooklyn Nets supporter tonight with some value and then a KD play.
Yeah, and on Bembry, he certainly could come in and get it done. He does a little bit of everything. The other guy I think who might get a little bump here is James Johnson, who's been out of the rotation a lot, got a few minutes here recently, and I think he matches up pretty well with these Golden State bench guys, the Iguodalas and the Kumingas of the world. So I think he could steal a few minutes and maybe get it done. But Bembry has been much more in the rotation and more of a factor. So.
And I forgot to mention LMA that you talked about. He is 4.8 on DraftKings now, but man, is he tempting. I mean, maybe even a Mills, Aldridge, Durant. I mean, I hate to stack three guys, but not in 3-game slates. You can get away with it in a 3-game slate. Absolutely.
Well, speaking of 3 games, how about number 2? We've got Philly and Utah at 10 Eastern.
Yeah.
It's the second game on the doubleheader. 216 total here. Utah favored by 9 at home. And the big news still with Philly, Embiid, Thibault out. Danny Green is going to be out tonight.
Yeah.
Utah healthy on the other side. And this is a slower pace game, Coach. Philly is almost last in pace. Utah middle of the road this year, but great offensive efficiency. Philly number 1, Utah number 3. So what do you think about Philly here with all these guys out?
It's hard because I definitely like some guys here, but the prices now, they've adjusted. It's
right.
The days where we could just jam in Maxey and Drummond and feel wonderful spending, 5-7 and 4-8 or whatever they were last week.
Those days are gone.
Maxey at 7-2 and Drummond at 8-7 sting a little bit, especially at Utah, the elevation. Philly's a little short-handed. Utah's healthy. All of that scares me a bit. That 103 implied's a little low for Philly with as efficient as they are. It's hard. Drummond certainly can be an option. Gobert, even though he's a terrific defender, centers have been scoring well on him. So it's not like he is a great guy, almost like if you had a team and you were coaching it, and you played a zone. I mean, he's the perfect guy. He comes over, he helps, alters shots, gets those rebounds. But one-on-one, guys like Drummond can outquick him a bit or, muscle even a little bit. So I hate to say it, but Drummond's not out of my off my ticket yet at 8-7. Now, there was some chatter and noise on social media about, Drummond's gassed. He hasn't played this many games and this many minutes in a row. He's backing up. So I think because of his price and because he's going against Gobert, you're going to see a big dip in his ownership. And I think you can get him on the sly. And let's face it, he could throw up a 15 and 18 kind of game and really be substantial in optimal lineups on a 3-game slate. So Drummond's not out of the picture for me. And then the guy that I like for value here is Furkan Korkmaz. He's only 4'6". He's going to chuck shots, man. That dude gets shots up. And the fact that there's multiple guys out, I think he's very playable. I think you're going to see a somewhat chalky, believe it or not, Seth Curry, because he's only 5'4". You're going to have a lot of teams with the Curry, both guys on rosters, I think. But, Curry's, yes, he gets extremely hot, but he is quite a bit scoring dependent. And, I'd probably like to go with Korkmaz. He's going to be much less owned. I've been a Tyrese Maxey fan since last year. I was begging for him to get minutes. But at 7-2 now, that mid-level, you got to think about it. I mean, he's $1,000 more than Conley across from him. So, again, not counting out Maxey or Drummond, because I think both of them can have terrific games here. But I'm not quite over the top with trying to be able to fit them in price-wise. But as far as, value goes, Curry or Korkmaz, I think, are the places to go. I'm probably looking at Mr. Cork.
Yeah, those guys are both in play for me. Should have increased opportunities with all those guys out. And the prices on Maxey and Drummond, I agree, are just tough to deal with on this slate, but not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
I'm leaning a little more towards Tobias Harris if I'm going to go in that price range for a Philly guy here.
Yeah.
8,500 on DraftKings is not my favorite, but FanDuel 77 I like a lot better. He's stepped up here with these other guys out like Embiid. And then we got to mention Niang coming back to town, return to Utah. He's been chucking it up in his 24 minutes or so off the bench. 39% threes on the season, 4,100 on DraftKings. Could be his night if he gets hot. But yeah, it'll be fun with Curry because Seth, he'll be watching in the locker room. He'll be watching his brother on TNT while he gets ready to lace him up out in Utah. And we'll see how the Curry brothers do tonight. So how about Utah here? Talk about chucking, Coach. Donovan Mitchell and Clarkson both average about 10 threes a game.
Yeah.
Clarkson has attempted 43 in his last 4 and didn't shoot well at all at the beginning of the season. He's trending up. He's in the low 5K range on both sites. Yeah. He's a guy that I think could go a little under the radar because of some of the guys we've already talked about. So I'm looking at him or Mitchell. Mitchell, we obviously have to pay up for in the starting lineup. He's been pretty rock solid, 45 to 50 fantasy points a night, gets a bunch of steals, hits a bunch of threes. So those are my 2 favorite plays on the Utah side here. Everyone else to me is just, not really a sexy play here against that slow pace of Philly, given their price tags. So I'd like to get one of these guards from Utah out there.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. And I'm glad you brought up Niang because, going back to Utah, he's going to be so pumped. Definitely a revenge narrative one here. So I like that as definitely a GPP shot. I want to comment on Tobias Harris. Yes, he could go off. He could lead them. He's their best player on the floor. My concern is he gets Royce O'Neal defense. That's why I didn't put him in there. And Royce has had some success. He has success against a lot of people.
Yep.
He's such a shutdown guy. So I just wanted to mention that. But, Conley's cheap, but he's playing okay. I'm with you. Bogdanovich, Gobert, all those guys, Ingles, Whiteside, it just nothing makes me jump off the board here. The only thing that does is I'm with you. I think Donovan Mitchell might be the best play on the slate. He's playing phenomenal. His usage is through the roof. He is taking shots all over the place. He's one of the best finishers in the game. And at 8'6", I think that's fair. I mean, he could easily be 9'4", 9'5", the way his usage and dominance has been. And a 113 total, I mean, they're going to score some points. And I think the majority of them will come from Mitchell. And I agree with you completely. I think the other guy that you have to look at here is Clarkson at 5'1". That's cheap, and the volume shooting is coming. And if you look at his last 4 games, like you said, he's really coming on. He's starting to hit shots. I mean, he was in like a 2 for 20 slump there for a while. So, I mean, he's really shook off the cobwebs there and started playing. So I'm with you completely on Mitchell. I think Clarkson is really the only other option I'd consider from that side of the ball for Utah. But I think this, this could be a competitive game. I know Utah's a double-digit favorite, but I think Philly hangs with them. The key reason I like Mitchell and Clarkson, Andrew, is the good defenders for Philly are all out. I mean, Danny Green being ruled out, was a big blow for defending the Utah guys. And, Maxey, Curry, Korkmaz, and, they'll bring in Shake and some Paul Reed and guys. That's not the level of defense that you need to stop the Mitchells and Clarksons of the world, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. I like those guards for all those reasons. We'll put our final lineups together here at about 7 o'clock Eastern. So jump in with us if you'd like. DFSCoachTalk.com. We'll have a nice array of lineups, cash lineups, and GPP lineups on FanDuel and Yahoo that you can plug and play. We'll have our coach's clipboard with core plays on DraftKings and then options to fill out your roster. So DFSCoachTalk.com to sign up. We will send you an email, get you into our Discord, and then we'll present those lineups at about 7 o'clock Eastern tonight, Coach.
Yeah, we get the extra half an hour, which is always fun to get some extra news in. It'll be relaxing compared to yesterday, but I love it. The more activity like that, people can adjust, and so it gives us an edge. So I hope they do shake up the barrel a little bit here tonight, especially with a couple of hours between that early game and the 2 late games. But also want to mention real quickly, if you're watching this on YouTube, give us a quick thumbs up, a subscribe, smash the subscribe button if you haven't already, and a quick comment. We'd really appreciate that. That helps us move up the algorithm on YouTube. And hit a little bell in the upper corner there. That alert will let you know when all of our podcasts post. They're all in front of the paywall, 7 days a week in NBA. We've got 3 in NFL, and then our PGA one, which this will be our last week of PGA for a while with the winter break coming. So you want to join in with that one tomorrow. So appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, Game 3, Coach, 10:30 Eastern. We've got the Spurs and Clippers. Spurs, the only team on this slate under 500, and they are 7.5-point underdogs to the Clippers. Total here, 219.5. And for news, we have Pirtle still out on the San Antonio side. On the Clippers side, we have Terrence Mann questionable with an ankle. And the game context here is some good pace. San Antonio getting up and down the floor this year. They're 4th. The Clippers are 7th.
Yeah.
And then middle of the road here in terms of offense. And we know that Clippers defense is very strong at number 2. So how about the pop side here? Where are you looking there, if anywhere?
Well, it's always terrifying when you're counting on Pop in a late game and you can't pivot if he does any of his pop stuff. It's an interesting game. This is probably my least favorite of the 3, even though there's a good pace here. Both of these teams can defend decently. Murray at 9.5 just seems so overpriced. I never get to him. I can't remember the last time that I played DeJounte Murray because he's been in those mid-9s. And yeah, at times he does pay that number off, but it's just a little bit too much for me. After that, you do have some great value. McDermott at 3.6, or if you want to play one of the split-minute bigs at Eubanks at 4.4 or Thad Young at 5.3, they're both capable. It's just they're, time sharing that spot. A lot of people like to go to Keldon Johnson. He's up to 6K. And yes, he can be the best player on the floor at times for them, but I just don't completely trust him. So to make a long story short here, with the Clippers' strong defense, with it being a road late game on the West Coast for the Spurs, I'd prefer not to get popped on a card that has a lot of good players for a 3-gamer and a lot of value for a 3-gamer.
Yeah, I think it's pick and choose here. Maybe one guy. Murray is a little overpriced for me. He had that nice triple double here last time out against the Lakers in this same spot, but 9.5, 9.8, a little too much for me. And Keldon Johnson, I think we're still a little hesitant because of last year, that extreme inconsistency from him. He has the last 5 games been pretty rock solid, about 6x return, 5-6x, but it's still just hard to trust, isn't it?
It is.
He can disappear, but he's an option. Both bigs are in play for me, like you said. And then Lonnie Walker, 3.7 is pretty cheap. He can always jump up and get you 20 to 25 fantasy points. Devin Vassell, he's been getting 25 to 30 minutes, and Pop is singing his praises. So all those guys are the thing here with the Spurs, coach, for me, is that they're a little bit cheaper, a little bit more attractive than usual. So I'm tempted to maybe get one of them in there, but just not in love with that side because of Pop. So I'm a little more interested on the Clippers side here.
Yeah.
And we've got the other big 10K star on the slate, and Paul George, who, again, I think he's a little overpriced. I'd rather go with Reggie Jackson or Eric Bledsoe. They're both getting up a ton of shots, right around that 6K range on both sites. Bledsoe is the guy that I don't really trust, but he's been pretty strong lately.
Yeah.
His shooting numbers for the season are not good, but he's trending in the right direction. And Reggie just continues to jack up the threes. So I'd probably get one of those guys. And after that, Zubats is on my radar. Hartenstein is a value play off the bench. 3,500 on DraftKings, only 4,000 on FanDuel as a value power forward. He had a big double-double a few games ago. Good point per minute guy. And then with Terrence Mann questionable, if he happens to be out, then I think Justice Winslow becomes another value play on this slate. He's minimum price on DraftKings, sat out the last game with a personal issue, but the game before that, he had his best game of the season. So we'll have to see if we get that news before lock. But Winslow's on my radar, and then of course Kennard will get a lot of looks here with Mann questionable, and his good price. He's been shooting it well this year. So, probably get at least one of those guards, Reggie Jackson, Eric Bledsoe, or Kennard, in most of my lineups.
Yeah, no, good points. I mean, for me, a pay up wise, Paul George at that 10-2 number, I get it. He's the dominant player on that team and he's playing fantastic, but I don't know if I want to go to that number. I'd rather fish with Mitchell and Curry or somebody, but I think the other buy-ups are just a little richer for me. Not that I'm not trying to talk anybody out of Paul George, because he could lead the slate in DFS points, but I'm not going to go there at that price against a somewhat stingy Spurs team at times, and the pace is good though, so that scares me a little bit with George. So I may play a GPP with George in there just in case he loses his marbles and goes nuts, but I don't think he's going to make my cash lineup. I think you made a good point. Now, for me, so far, I have Terrence Mann listed as out. I know he's totally questionable. He's not listed out yet. But in my preparation, from what I've seen, what I've read, what I've heard, I don't think he's going to play. So for me, I like the two guys that you mentioned, Kennard and Winslow. One of those two guys are going to make my actual cash lineup if Mann does sit. So my initial builds, I'm going to have one of those guys in there because I think one of those two will be key, because Mann's been 25 to 30 minutes a game and he takes a decent amount of shots and is very involved. Winslow looked terrific the game before last. And again, he wasn't injured or it wasn't a coach's decision. Like you mentioned, he had a personal game. So, he may be a strong play at dead minimum 3K. It's hard to pass up. Kennard is only 4K. And again, he's burned me a few times, but with man out, they're going to need some scoring off the bench. And those are the two guys that they go to without question. It's funny that you mentioned Hartenstein, because Zubats has slid so far down the scale for me. I almost like Hartenstein better. Isn't that crazy?
Well, especially on FanDuel where he's 1,600 cheaper.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not like, Thaddeus Young is active, but he's not a big guy who's going to, outsize Hartenstein and thwart him that way. So it's just, he's kind of an under the radar guy who's, really good per minute, and he's still cheap.
And I love this rotation because I think Eubanks would have more success guarding Hartenstein. I mean, Thad Young's terrific. He's a veteran, but he's a power forward. He's not a true center at all.
No.
And Hartenstein's a center.
Yeah.
So if he's going to get minutes against that, he could be a great value. So I look at this Clippers side as a value outlet here with Kennard, Hartenstein, and Winslow. Not going to play more than one of them in a lineup, but I think all three of them are rosterable. I really do. As far as the starters, maybe we get a little bump to Reggie Jackson and Eric Bledsoe with Mann being out. Maybe they get an extra 3-4 minutes if the game stays close. The question is, can the Spurs keep it close enough? 7.5 numbers, not bad, but I think Bledsoe has been consistent, like you say, but the fear with Bledsoe is as soon as you plug him in, he dud at you. But worth considering at 5'2", and Reggie at 6'1", I think is underpriced, to be honest with you. He plays huge minutes, no man to back up, so I wouldn't fault you there. So I'm looking more on the value side with those guys on the, and hopefully it allows me to buy up in those early games and position myself to at least have these guys, hold the line for me in the late game.
Let's hope it plays out just like that.
Yeah.
Should be a fun slate, nice combination of stars and value plays to put together. So we'll be working on that this afternoon and building those lineups tonight. So any questions, reach out to us on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk. Make sure to tune in tomorrow as Coach is back for another full Wednesday slate, and stay tuned to the channel, 7 days a week NBA. So on behalf of the coach and the rest of the DFS Coach Talk team, I'm Andrew Hansen. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time as we look to crush it in DFS.